Boxing Truth here. I had to talk a little bit about the WBO middleweight champion, Joe Saunders, who was talking a lot of shit this past week, going on social media rants about the boxing game, going in on his rivals in the middleweight division, particularly Canelo Alvarez and Eubank Jr. Now, Joe Saunders is doing a lot of talking, but he hasn't been doing a lot of fighting lately. He has yet to perform this year in 2016. Unfortunately, he had to pull out of his last scheduled fight, which was supposed to be in April. He was supposed to get a voluntary defense out of the way against a hand-picked opponent in the WBO top 15 rankings. However, Saunders he sustained an injury in camp, was forced to pull out of the fight, and now it's threw a wrench into his plans on what he was going to do in the middleweight division. His team wanted to get a voluntary defense in, and then go after a big money fight in the summer. But now his team, since Saunders' first title defense has been pushed back, perhaps Saunders' team, Frank Warren, they're probably going to go after the big money fight right away for the summer or whenever it takes place for Joe Saunders' next fight. So now the word is that Saunders is in talks with Triple G's team and Tom Loeffler for a potential fight for all the marbles in the middleweight division. Of course, more of this was revealed in Saunders' most recent interview with Kugan Cassius, a very interesting interview where Saunders talked about his plans, also his rivals, and pretty much that he's in talks with Golovkin's team, and that the fight could very well happen. Very good possibility it could happen next for Triple G's next fight, which is going to be in September. Whether it's going to be with or without Canelo Alvarez, those negotiations are not officially dead, Triple G and Canelo, but it's not many writers, fans, and people in the industry are very confident that the fight will happen next. So it only makes sense for Saunders and Triple G to happen next for all the marbles. Saunders has the last strap in the middleweight division, but Saunders is he's taking a jab at his rivals. First, Canelo Alvarez, calling him a ginger wanker, a coward for vacating his belt. That how could he look himself in the mirror? How could he sleep at night by showing an unwillingness to fight another man? That if there was to fight him and Canelo, that he would school him, that he would school him, that he's flat-footed, he has slow feet with good hands, the type of style that he will look very good against. The type of style Sanders loves to fight. I'll be honest, if I'm Golden Boy's team, I wouldn't put Canelo. I'm not that willingly to make that fight, simply because of Saunders' style. Saunders, he's not a bad fighter. He's got some tools. He can box a little bit. He's very slick. He's not easy to hit. He's got good hand speed. He's a tricky fighter. Tricky fighter to look good against. Just, he has a type of style that could just make it very difficult. He doesn't have that eraser in his arsenal. He doesn't have that big punching power, even though he displayed some of it in his last fight, but against a chinny Andy Lee. Andy Lee he's not known for a great chin. But, when Saunders says he will school Canelo, I'm not sure if he will school him, but I know it would be a difficult fight for Canelo. It'd be a very interesting, close fight, and it will be the type of fight you don't really know who's going to win, because that style is problematic for Canelo. But I very much doubt that fight would even happen. There's any possibility of that fight happening. If Canelo's not going to fight Triple G, most likely Golden Boy is going to keep it in-house and fight David Lemieux. The type of style that Canelo could look better against, because Billy Joe's style is just too difficult. I'm not saying he's not beatable, but it's a difficult style to look good against. But Saunders also went in on his other rival, Chris Eubank Jr. Continues to trash him, saying that he's full of shit. That he's not serious about fighting Triple G. Considering that Eubank Jr. has already turned down 2 world title opportunities, and it's true. I have also questioned some of the decisions Eubank Jr. has made in his career, unwilling to pursue a title shot with Danny Jacobs for his regular strap. He was in position. He was the number 1 contender. Then pretty much relinquished it when he fought for the British title. And according to Saunders, Eubank Jr. also turned down a rematch with him, where Eubank Jr. got an offer for a very high purse, close to 7 figures even, and they ended up turning it down. The fight, they didn't take the fight because Saunders claims that Eubank Sr. didn't want the fight for his son because he knows what the outcome would be. But just because the fight didn't happen, or the rematch was offered and it didn't happen, doesn't mean it could happen later. Perhaps it could even be bigger. More money could be on the table for both Eubank Jr. and Saunders to go at it again. Now, in a rematch, Eubank Jr. has to do a better job of getting on the inside, getting into punching range on Billy Joe Saunders, because in the first fight, especially the first half, Saunders made Eubank Jr. look sloppy as hell, made him look pretty bad. Eubank Jr. was too wild, was sloppy with his footwork, was hesitant to throw because of Saunders' feints and counter punching ability. But in the second half of the fight, Eubank Jr. made adjustments. He showed his superior conditioning. He was in the better shape of the 2 fighters. And he was able to, as Saunders was gassing, Eubank Jr. was having better moments, he was doing a lot better work. So a rematch between those 2 is very interesting, but Eubank Jr. has to improve his jab. He has to improve his jab to be able to get on the inside and able to land his trademark combinations and uppercuts. Because what his tactics in the first fight to getting on inside was bull rushing Saunders or throwing wild haymakers to get inside, and he will look sloppy as hell doing it. He needs to improve that jab, especially if he wants to compete against the top level fighters. He's got to improve that jab. But it's going to be interesting to see if the Canelo fight doesn't happen with Triple G. Then Triple G is going to has to make a decision. Is he going to fight Billy Joe Saunders, or is he going to fight Chris Eubank Jr.? That's the intrigue behind this, because Saunders has the strap, and he called out Triple G on social media. And he asked him this question. He said, "GGG boxing, do you want to fight a champ in myself and Billy Joe Saunders, or do you want to fight a chump, a British level, who sticks to British level, and Chris Eubank Jr.?" Now, if you go by Triple G's statements, he's talking about all the belts. He's talking about he wants all the straps. And perhaps he's going to have to make a choice. If the Canelo fight doesn't happen next, it's going to be one of these 2 guys that are going to be in the ring with Triple G. I really believe so. Saunders or Eubank Jr. Does Triple G want a strap? Does he want the last belt to add it to his collection? Or does he want a bigger money fight? In my opinion, I believe Eubank Jr. has more. I think he has more market value. He also has Eddie Hearn. He has the bigger platform at Sky. Because if Triple G is going to fight Eubank Jr., the fight has to be in the UK, where the most revenue can be generated. Even Eubank Jr. stated it himself. He wants that fight to take place in the UK because it doesn't make sense to go to America since he's never fought in America. And also, Triple G would need in order to be successful on pay-per-view in America, it would have to be a well-known fighter in America. And according to Eddie Hearn, that fight wouldn't be pay-per-view in America. It will only be pay-per-view in the UK. So it would make sense for Triple G to fight Eubank Jr. in the UK on the Sky platform on pay-per-view in the UK over there, where the most money could be generated if that fight was to happen. And also, in my eyes, it's a bigger money fight for Triple G to fight Eubank Jr. compared to a Billy Joe Saunders, even though Saunders has a strap. But if you look at Saunders' market value, it ain't all that. It ain't all that. Only 4,000 people showed up with his fight with Andy Lee for his first world title shot opportunity. He's not well known in America, so how big is that fight in America? Well, on the pay-per-view platform, if that fight was on pay-per-view, the fight would do business in America. Of course, Triple G is one of the handful of the top ticket sellers in America. To have another champion come through, it'll still be a big fight, but in terms of pay-per-view, the pay-per-view market, it might not be as big. But Saunders is, he's already turned down a fight with Triple G, and he went into it with Coogan. Maybe the numbers were exaggerated on exactly what type of money was offered to Saunders, but it was in the 7-figure range. It was also considered his biggest payday, but he didn't see it as life-changing money to go over to America to fight Triple G. But now he's once again saying that he'll fight him next. That he's been calling him out a lot lately. That he's willing to go to the US, UK, whatever. That he's very interested to fight Triple G for all the marbles. He believes he could beat him. That what he said in the past was just mind games. That he what you say in boxing is not always. When he said that he will get beat by Triple G is just mind games. That he's just fucking around. But we're just gonna have to wait and see what's gonna go down, as Loeffler's probably very busy with emails and a lot of dialogue with a lot of promoters about Triple G's next fight, which is gonna be in September according to Loeffler. And it's ironic that, these two guys, Eubank Jr. and Saunders, are pretty much in the running for Triple G's next fight, since the Canelo fight doesn't appear it's going to happen next. But I don't know. I think I don't mind if it's Saunders for Triple G next. That's fine. I'm good with that. If it's Chris Eubank Jr., it's a fight I like to see. I don't think Eubank Jr. is ready for it yet, considering the opposition he's been fighting. He hasn't been fighting the strongest opposition, and Saunders took a jab at that as well. And it's true, especially his next opponent, Eubank Jr.'s next opponent. It's even a level below his previous two opponents in Blackwell and Spike O'Sullivan. And Saunders was saying that, this fight shouldn't even be sanctioned because Eubank Jr. is fighting guys way below his level. That perhaps Tom Duran could get hurt. That he hasn't had the development fights to fight at that level. That he's undefeated but very untested and could get hurt. Because even though Saunders trashes Eubank Jr., he still acknowledges that he's a strong and a well-conditioned fighter, and that he'll give it a go. He'll come at you. He'll give you a rough fight. So even though he trashes, he calls him a British level fighter and that he ain't shit, that he ain't ready for world level, he still acknowledges his power and his capabilities and his conditioning. But I'd rather these two guys fight again, to be honest, in a rematch. Billy Joe Saunders and Chris Eubank Jr. I want to see if Eubank Jr. has improved his fluidity, his footwork, and see if he can get inside by jabbing his way in, because that was the big problem in the first fight. He couldn't get inside into punching range as consistently as he would have liked to land his trademark combinations and uppercuts. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be some clarity in the middleweight division. Triple G is the man. His name is buzzing in the boxing world right now. Everyone's saying his name, calling him out. That's what happens when you become the man and you have all the straps. Everyone wants to come at you. Everyone wants to fight with you. I don't see Triple G being avoided much longer because he's going to have all the hardware. How the hell can he be avoided when he's the man that got all the straps? But we're going to see what happens. Saunders currently in negotiations with Triple G, as well as Chris Eubank Jr. and Canelo. We're going to see who got the biggest balls out of these three top middleweights, who will take the daring task of fighting Triple G. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.